Even though members of the Democratic Party establishment have remained defiant and have tried to resist calls for change from their own voters, even though many people don't like the idea of a progressive, independent leading the Democratic Party, I'm looking at you, Joyanne Reed. Regardless if you like it or not, Bernie Sanders is emerging as the new de facto leader of the Democratic Party. And this is demonstrated in multiple ways, but one way that really stands out to me is how he's leading the resistance against Trump and the Republicans' effort to repeal the Affordable Care Act. So according to the Chicago Tribune, Democratic congressional leaders and Senator Bernie Sanders have called for a January 15th day of action to oppose any cuts to healthcare plans or subsidies from the incoming Trump administration. The latest example of the Vermont senator pushing his briefly adopted party toward more activism. Millions of Americans voted for Donald Trump after he promised not to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, writes Sanders, Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer, and New York and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi in the letter sent to colleagues in Congress. He must be held to his promises and should veto any legislation which cuts these vital and necessary health programs. The letter calls for Democrats in Congress to help organize rallies around the country and attempt to bracket what will come the following day, a ramp up to Trump's inauguration, and to Republicans calling for him to end the Affordable Care Act. Now, although other Democrats are also taking credit for this, well, to me, I think Bernie Sanders is the one who should receive all the credit because this sounds incredibly familiar to a strategy that he proposed during the primaries.
If we are serious about rebuilding the American middle class, if we are serious about providing paid family and medical leave to all of our people, if we are serious about ending the disgrace of having so many of our children live in poverty, the real way to do it is to have millions of Americans finally stand up and say enough is enough, for people to get engaged in the political process, to finally demand that Washington represent all of us, not just a handful of very wealthy people. That's the way you bring about real change.
Now, if you want more reasons to believe that progressives are taking over the Democratic Party, well, this is demonstrated in Representative Raul Grijalva's explanation as to how him and other progressives now have a newfangled credibility among their peers. The Guardian explains, indeed, some Sanders progressives now see Trump's victory as a validation of the populist agenda Sanders championed during his campaign. Progressives are used to punching up, but here we find ourselves in a real position of credibility and power, said Raul Grijalva of Arizona, a co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. So the takeaway is that there's a real leader who emerged after this election, and that individual is not Barack Obama, because if anything, he's helped to further damage the credibility of the Democratic Party. That person is not Hillary Clinton, because even though she claimed before the election was over that if she lost, she would help to fight Donald Trump and she'd mobilize voters to combat any of his more harmful policies, well, she's just kind of sitting back now and not doing anything. And that person also is not Tim Kaine, who many in the establishment are looking to as a new leader. The leader of the Democratic Party is very clear. That person is Bernie Sanders, and if you don't like it, then I don't know what to tell you. After being decimated by an easily beatable buffoon like Donald Trump, the Hillary Clinton wing of the party should be begging Bernie Sanders and his supporters for their assistance. After we were snubbed during the primaries, they gave us the middle finger, and now they should be kissing our asses. So the fact that we're even dealing with the Democratic Party, they should be thankful. So now it's our turn. Allow us to come in and try to repair what you've destroyed, which is the party that used to be for the working class, and it's only for their donors now. So allow progressives to actually, you know what? Don't allow us to do anything. You don't have to allow us. We're taking over, regardless if you want us to or not, because as progressives, we have to do what's right. And if we don't drag the Democratic Party to the left and the way that the Tea Party dragged the Republicans to the right and basically purged all moderates from the party, if we can't do that, then we will not be successful. So either you can help us or you can get out of the way. But progressives are taking over, and if you don't like that, tough.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.